Hello, welcome to Nigeria Now. It's always a privilege and another time where we get to sit and talk about some of the issues and some of the challenges we are facing as a nation. I am Sela Elisha Dashim and I'll be doing the program alongside Rachel Tansey. Good afternoon, Rachel.
Afternoon, Sally.
All right, we have quite a number of
We
stories
do.
on our plate this afternoon, and we'll really invite our viewers to keep a date with us. You can do well to drop your comment on Facebook and on YouTube because we would love to hear what your own views are concerning these issues we will be bringing to the table this afternoon. I would love to start with what the Labour presidential candidate Peter Obi have to say regarding the lavish spending of this present administration, looking at the borrowing, which we saw, that our borrowing is almost getting to 95 trillion naira. So quite a number to actually look into for those who know how the numbers keep going down. And we'd love to see what he have to say about that, and then we could actually bring down some of the issues that are happening, Richard. And you will recall, Richard, that we have to go back to during his manifestos. He actually had a number of manifestos, not just him. We had other presidential candidates and even the governors coming out to say, you know what, this is what I intend to do, this is what I intend to do, and how I hope to achieve all of this thing. And then we're seeing that again, the Labour presidential candidate, Peter Obi, is coming out to say that, you know what, looking at the spending of this administration, he has a lot to say because he said comparing us with other countries, comparing us with other things that we should have done better. He made mention, example of one of the countries was when he mentioned Netherlands, where he said they are making quite a number of money when it comes to just exporting of clothing and footwear. But then here we are as a nation, and then all we depend on presently is just talking about our oil. And he said he was actually in Borno State. He actually visited Niger State as well. And then he had a one-on-one talk with the governor of the state. And he said, just take a look at the landmarks you're having. It's almost more than 2 times that of Netherlands. But then, yes, you're having a land that is just wasting. I remember even last year, this present administration were talking about how they can go into agriculture, making good use of the land. Now, looking at what this candidate, the presidential candidate of Labour Party, is saying, and then we're looking at a number of things that we could actually do. And I remember you and I bringing to the table some of the things that government can do, because it's one thing for you to borrow. I mean, a lot of nations borrow, but then what do you use this money to do?
Exactly.
I think that's the question Nigerians are asking, and I think this is the point of view where the presidential candidate of Labour Party is actually taking his own side of argument, saying the fact that the government is just borrowing and then there's nothing to show for it eventually.
True, Sally. I mean, when it comes to comparison, Sally, we can literally go around the world and realize that what we lack in Nigeria is not resources, is not the minerals, is not the land mass, is actually just leadership. It keeps boiling down to that because you see that we have everything it takes. We have the resources other countries are having and are thriving well. We have the manpower, we have the skilled or unskilled workforce, and we have everything it takes, every region, whatever. We have whatever it takes, Sele, for us to have an agriculture that is not only feeding us, but feeding countries around
us
West
as well.
Africa and even neighboring countries. We can even talk about our oil, Sele. Theft is eating deeply, and that's why we're not meeting our quota when it comes to OPEC. We do have enough to be producing more than what we are counting as it is now. And then we can just go back and forth, and the more we do the digging, the more we are wowed, the more we just realize that until we start getting leadership right, regardless of the wealth we have, we're going to remain in the same position. And no wonder this is coming from the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, and he has been a voice during election, pre-election, and now post-election. And I am happy that he haven't kept quiet concerning it. However, I like to say it is not coming from a position to antagonize. Even if he was to be the president, he would have still borrowed either way because we don't have that much to finance a lot of what we are doing. We have a debt servicing that is gulping our revenue. We have oil production that is not for sure. We have import issues left, right, center, our balance, our trades are not balanced and all of that. So he would have, but then the difference is perhaps what his administration will be doing with these borrowed funds. And the time frame in which we are seeing so much being taken out as borrowing is too much, and it's alarming, because this 7.3 trillion naira said, like, we had a supplementary budget of 2.7. These are all borrowed funds. Also, this supplementary budget we had in 2023, it's also borrowed fund. We are now looking at, we already have a deficit from the 2023 budget of 9 trillion, right? And then now we are looking at a budget that has been signed by the president. We've seen that, of 28.7. Now, when this budget, when we started, it was what do they call it? Revenue estimate of 18 trillion naira. So now, if our budget is at 28.7 trillion, we are now looking at 10.7 trillion naira. What we will spend, what we will borrow to be able to finance the rest of our 2024 budget. So when you look at it, and the budget is already signed, so come what may, come rain, come sunshine,
you just have to look for a way.
Exactly, the Nigerian government have to fund that budget.
Of course.
If not, the country will not move as expected, because that is what has been planned to be the expenses for the year 2024. And the fact is, regardless of whose mouth this observation is coming from, this time frame for this much borrowing is huge. We are looking at an administration within a short period of time of at most 7 months going over an almost 20 trillion naira when it comes to borrowing, and what you have added to the debt profile of the country. And I just hope, so this is what we are keeping our fingers crossed, trusting that eventually we will see what this 7.3 trillion naira was used for. The supplementary budget has been given, which majorly went to insecurity, and yet we came to December and we saw what happened in the villages. And then you wonder, what are the funds for security going to? What are they being used for? And now we will wait and see. We just have to wait and see. So we are in a position of waiting and seeing, and just hoping that we will be having a different administration. Already, this is a red flag. So too much borrowing, this huge amount of borrowing is already a red flag. But at the same time, it's too early for a conclusion. We just have to wait and see what will be the outcome. And of course, we are hopeful that the outcome will be good for Nigerians, that it won't be like the ways and means of 22 trillion that we can't really account for or say much, but that this time around, when we see these bonds, when we see these liquidated funds going out in the name of loan from the CBN, that we'll be able to see something at the end of it, because already even the CBN are violating their laws. You're not supposed to be giving out this much when the old ones are not settled yet. Exactly, and then you wonder, I mean, where is the CBN heading to, and are you even really that independent? And if you are giving with one hand, if on the other side you are trying to do 1 or 2 things for our foreign exchange to stabilize, but then on the other side you are releasing funds that will eventually still cause our foreign exchange to go back to where it was, then you wonder if we are going to make headways, or it's just giving with one hand, collecting with the other hands, and then we just see ourselves in a stagnant position. Are we growing? No. Are we where we are? No. I mean, that seems like what we are witnessing right now, but we'll just have to keep hoping that this administration truly knows what they are doing.
You know, you made a very valid point, the fact that we have all that it takes to actually make our economy to be thriving. But then it's quite unfortunate that our economy is not where it should be as of 2024. I mean, if you look at other countries that we actually got independent even before, or even countries that have gotten independent after we did, countries which actually helped to actually gain their independence, you know, you cannot help but wonder where we are and where those other countries are. That's why, you know, a lot of people, when they come to actually talk about the economy of Nigeria, they can't help but actually make comparisons with other nations that are just supposed to be coming up, but then we see that they are quite intelligent, permit me to use that word, to see that, you know what, why don't we spread our, wings and see what else can we actually experiment with that will actually contribute to our GDP. I'm still waiting to hear what the Minister of Natural Resources or sorry, it's going to say, because I remember him mentioning the fact that, this ministry have so much actually contributed. I mean, I've not heard his voice throughout 2024, so possibly he's cooking something.
Yes.
But then, when, just like you made mention, it's not about who is actually criticizing the government presently, but it's all about what can the present administration do with this criticism. Because, I mean, whether you do good or you do bad, people will definitely talk, but what can you do to make sure that my administration will do better? And we talk about electricity. We're also supplying to other countries, but what happened? We don't have power. No wonder we're having a lot of international companies have left the country. Why? Because part of the things that they cannot longer, handle the issue.
Yes.
We don't have power. We saw where manufacturers are complaining the fact that the first half of 2023 is going to be a tough one for them.
Yeah.
Why? Because the prices of commodities, some of the things they need to use and all of that is high.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of people, every day people also complaining on the price of goods and services as well. So you can't help but wonder, what is this government doing? When you borrow, are you actually channeling this money to the right places? It's one thing for you to borrow, Rachel, but when you don't have something you want to use the money for, you can't give account of it eventually.
Yes.
You made mention of the ways and means. I mean, ideally, you're supposed to just borrow 5% of the entire revenue, but we've seen our government going against that policy. So we need to come to a time whereby we say, you know what, let's do away with these spendings that actually do not generate anything to the government. You made mention of the oil theft. What is the government doing to make sure that, we need to cover that loophole over there? Talk about the issue of, food prices. We have all the land. What is the government doing to make sure that, let's make use of this land space we're doing? A lot of people are saying we're supposed to take over from Ukraine. It's not as if we are happy that they are having crisis, but this should have been another way for another part of the country to say, why don't we take advantage of this? So we're looking forward to seeing that, when people come out to actually criticize and point the fact that, this government is not doing well here.
Yes.
Let us see, it's more like a wake-up call that, enough of the borrowing. Just like you said, no matter what we do, we'll still have to borrow. But then what are we using the funds for? That is the question. And I believe that's what Nigerians want to hear. Now, I'd like us to look at the issue. We started yesterday looking at the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry. The back and forth and all of that. And then we just have to touch it, follow up again, because we're saying that yesterday, Beth Edu was suspended, and then she was also denied access to the presidential villa. Her tag for accessing to the villa was being seized, and then she was whisked away in the security van. And then we're seeing that today she was being ushered by the EFCC. Presently, right now, she is in the office of the EFCC because she needs to go through a lot of interrogation. Yesterday we have her predecessor then talking about Farouk. She was actually there for almost 12 hours going through serious, grinning and then asking her questions. And then we see that she's not under arrest, right? But then she have to be visiting the EFCC for interrogation daily. So she's not permitted to leave the vicinity. She's supposed to be accessible and all of that. And now we're seeing that Edu's ministry also is going through investigation and probe, because we've seen that ever since the scandal of the 585 million, in fact, between July to August, there was an interception of about 32 billion naira. The ICPC said they actually were about to steal that money, but then they were able to regain it. So that is to say that they have been an eye on that ministry for quite a number of months now. So a lot of questions in the minds of Nigeria. What can we do to see that, they were just sworn into office in August, so you could actually count that she's less than 6 months into office, and then a lot of things like this are coming out from that office. We saw Oshomole also talking about that Dave Umahi needs to also answer the fact that he's asking for 200 million naira to fix the Edo Auchi Road, and then how can you do that and all of that. A lot of questions are coming. We're seeing that even this particular office is being linked to the Interior Ministry as well, and then he's saying, I'm not aware all of this. So we're seeing a number of, what will I say, more like cans of worms have been opened. Dume is talking about the fact that there are cabals working. So it's not all about the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, there are other people that are also working. So that calls for checkmating every ministry at this point in time, because a lot of people are using their ministry to embezzle money. We've seen misappropriation of funds over there. So let us see where the government will say, you know what, enough of this. A lot of people are giving the president kudos and saying, well done, regardless of whoever is your favorite minister. We're saying that you are out to be transparent. But then beyond that, what can we do? Because enough of all of this misappropriation back and forth, especially coming from the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry.
Yes, I think due to the size of the Humanitarian Ministry, it has not been under the eye of people for that long. And then I think that is the reason why we have these ministers getting away with this much funding. And then it just so happened for Betta that, you know, her 585 million naira turns out to be big, kind of more of a buzz than 37 billion. You know, that is a very huge amount of money compared to what Betta is facing and what she has to deal with. Regardless, we have been seeing this, Sele, and we talked about how the humanitarian ministry, not that much, but I know that we've touched it in 2023, how we are not feeling the impact that ministry much. And to see that ministry has gotten that much money that someone can even embezzle such billions, then you should know that they have been sleeping on their job. And it's good news that it's coming under the light and spotlight for the wrong reasons under Buhari's administration. And then we started this conversation in the morning, and my opinion was that I hope that it doesn't end here, that we will see this fire for every other ministry. We have the solid mineral ministry, and that is quite new itself, and we saw how the minister is saying there's so much potential for it. I'm looking forward to also seeing such ministry that might not have been in the eye of people, but have the potential to make so much money being looked into, because by the time we don't look at them, tomorrow we will wake up and hear outrageous amounts of money being swept under the carpet, being misappropriated, and we're like, wow, so this ministry even sees this kind of money, so this ministry controls this kind of money, and all of that. It's really sad that to see that the ministry that is supposed to be the humanity ministry, put it that way, that is supposed to make sure that every Nigerian that have found himself in circumstances unplanned for are the ones
being taken care of.
Exactly, taking advantage of that. And a lot of people are not seeing this help or need coming from. We talk about how a lot of regions are being neglected when it comes to humanitarian support. We talk about the IDP camps in Benue. We talk about the IDP camps here in Jos, in Kaduna. We talk about all the places that there are internally displaced people not seeing enough welfare coming from the federal government. And this is clearly as a result of misappropriation of funds from this ministry, and is now in the light for everybody to see. So we saw where EFCC is saying that this Betta's suspension and everything is going on to create room and way for others, for other probe to take place in the ministry. So we're not only looking at Farouk, we're also looking at her predecessor before her, and then now Betta. And I just hope that these women refund back the money, Sele. It's not just enough for them to be granted bail. Is we want to see a revamp in that ministry also, that everything comes back to normal, that this money are being accounted for. I mean, even by seeing the way the transaction took place, Sele, it's enough for you to say there's something fishy going on.
About that.
Yes, it's just too questionable. And yes, we might all speculate because we will have to wait and hear what the EFCC will be able to squeeze out from Betta. But then money that is for different states going to one person already says, no, don't you know your job? You're not supposed to do it like that, and all of that. So we just have to keep waiting and seeing. But we are not hoping for the worst. I'm hoping that these funds will be well accounted for, and then eventually it will be that this money is still available for people who are in need of it to get access to it.
You know, Rachel, while you were talking, I just can't help but, wrap my head the fact that women are making it to the spotlight for the wrong reasons. Just like you made mention, because you can't help but and say the fact that, I mean, these are ministries that we're supposed to be expecting to hear that a lot of things are being done. I mean, last year we saw where the initiative for giving certain funds to actually help the poor people, the needy people to start something. And no wonder the president added that apart from the fact that this ministry is being called Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, it's being added with poverty eradication.
Yeah.
That is to say that the sole responsibility of this ministry is to make sure that, you know, people who are actually languishing in hunger, people who actually have been affected. I mean, this is where you're expecting them to work together with NIMET or NEMA, NEMA, to actually see that, you know what, people who have been affected by one thing or another are being reached out to. Because just like we said, this fund was supposed to go to Akwa Ibom, Lagos, Cross River, and Ogun State as well, because we've seen that there have been a number of vulnerable people over there that need to be helped. But then yet, you know, you hear flimsy excuses such as, I mean, this money was being transferred mistakenly and all of that. Certain excuses that you can't just help but wonder, where are these things coming from? Are we having ministers that feel that Nigerians are that daft that you could just bring up any excuse and then they will buy to it? So right now, we just hope that, just like we mentioned, the fact that it shouldn't just be, the eyes should not just be on this ministry, because of course the president has said interrogation, she should be open and make sure that the EFCC, ICPC get every information that they get. So presently, as we are talking, she's also talking to the EFCC. So we hope that she will be transparent. If you are working with other people, name them. I think we've had enough whereby a lot of people are hiding under certain ministries. We made mention of the fact that there's no ministry that can function alone. You need to collaborate with other ministries. Only you want to be effective in your own office. So we hope that after all of this interrogation, just like we made mention, if she's been found guilty, just like you mentioned, let her reform back the money.
She should.
We need the money back, or we don't even have the money in Nigeria as it is presently. So we don't want to hear whereby a lot of people are hiding under this. You know, it's sad because this is not the first time she's been given a public office. I made mention of this in the morning. She was the Commissioner of Health in Cross River. She was also the women leader for the APC. So that is to say that over the years, she's had touch with many, and then be able to know that when it comes to administration, there are various ways you should do certain things. And possibly a lot of people have come out today, maybe she's not being clever, and that is why, I mean, a lot of things are coming out this week. But I'm happy because we keep mentioning the fact that we want a government that is transparent. We want a government that will stand for the truth regardless of what it will do to them. And I'm happy, just like we said, the president is actually standing by his words. You are not a minister to a state, neither a minister to a local government, a minister of Nigeria. So you're supposed to serve Nigeria. So right now, you and I are just waiting to see how far this investigation, because this story is far from being over. A lot of things will come out. I believe that we'll see a lot of revelation coming out, because certain things will be revealed eventually here. We hope that she'll come out clean. But if she's guilty, then she have to dance to the beat of the drum for the judgment eventually. Well, Rachel, I just hope that a lot of things will come out well eventually.
So.
Well, and I think that's how far we can go on the program this afternoon. Thank you.
You're welcome, Selene.
And also thank you to our viewers for keeping it date with us on Nigeria Now. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Do have a blessed day ahead.